near the end of this wiring stuff, I have to turn this mess back into a data cable capable of transmitting large amounts of data accurately at high speeds. This looks terrible, I know. But they're all connected. They've all got shrink wrap tubing. I feel like I've got good crimps on everything. That certainly doesn't look pretty, but that's because, you know, all the crimped connectors are, it's just a big lumpy mess kind of thing in there, which is really the only way to do it. Wiring this connector to the end of the N2K cable, really difficult to get all the wires fit into the space. I mean, it's literally just enough space. And then I realized this N2K cable is a lot heavier than most. Network marine cable comes in two sizes depending on how much power it's rated to carry. The instructions show you that the blue wire needs to be shorter and then all the other wires need to be the same length. But since this is the heavy gauge N2K cable, the black wire, because it's routed on the wrong side of the red wire, has to loop across it. If you cut it the same length, that distance is too far and there's not enough give in the rest of the connector, the rest of the wires and that sort of thing. So what you have to do is you have to cut the whole thing longer so that you can leave this black wire long, and then you trim the blue, bare, red, and white wires back to the length specified in the instructions. You wire everything up, and then you wrap this black wire around, and you measure, you know, you just kind of eyeball it to see how long it has to be, and then you cut it to the required length to make it be able to wrap around like that. When I did the previous N2K cabling, I had this problem where the black wire had to cross over the red in order to get to the right place. So here's interesting, with this wiring, the wires are actually in the bundle in the correct arrangement, that there's no crossing over required. In addition to being smaller wires, because this is a lower amperage cable, I have a wind speed of 7.5 knots, wind angle 47 degrees, 60% humidity. I mean, it's talking to the device. So this is excellent news. This tells me that the network is working. So this is a little public service announcement. When you get into marine wiring for the first time, there's things that seem simple that aren't. This is a ring terminal. If you're not familiar with these are pretty much, you know, how you connect wires to things. Not the only way, but this is one of the most common ways. And it's pretty simple. It's got a ring on the end so that even if the screw comes loose, the wire, the terminal can't fall off, which of course on a boat where there's lots of vibration, that's a good thing. It's also got this heat shrink tubing on it, so you stick the wire and you crimp it, and these mechanical fasteners, experts have determined that they are more reliable than soldering connections, which seems counterintuitive, but that's what the experts say. And then you heat this with a heat gun, and this tubing shrinks, provides a watertight seal, and the entire thing is sealed up so the wire can't corrode and that sort of thing. Here's what you don't see. If you look, we have this one brand, and I have several brands because I buy from different companies, and the main reason I would buy all from the same company, except for there's a problem, and that is that these are designed for a specific diameter of wire. If the wire is too small, you can't really crimp it down well enough to get a good connection. If you use wire that's too big, it won't fit at all. So there's a range, like this one is between 18 and 22 gauge, but the point is you need multiple of these to handle all the different size wires that you're going to be using. And of course wire gauge changes with how much power you need to put through it and that sort of thing. Here's the thing that kind of falls hidden is there's also different sized connectors in the ends. And these are for 18 to 22, these are for 12 to 16. And you can kind of see these are just slightly different. It's kind of hard to get them overlap. These are just slightly different in size. These ones aren't very big of a difference. There are some here that I have. I had to buy, this is one of the reasons, these are a specific reason why I don't always buy from the same, is I needed small wire to connect to a very large bolt. And you can clearly see that, this isn't the same. But these are also designed for 18 to 22 gauge.
wire, but they're designed to go in a bigger bolt. This is kind of uncommon, so these can be kind of hard to find. But when you look for these, they're pretty obvious. They're like, oh, for a 1/4-inch bolt, you know, and because it's so odd, they're well marked. These, they just assume, well, you know, it's probably about the right size. So what happens is, like, you have this terminal strip, which is probably designed for about 30 amps, and this will fit on this screw just fine. You have this terminal strip, which is designed for 20 amps, and hopefully the camera will be able to pick this up. The ring terminal will not fit between the plastic guards. You cannot use this unless you take a grinder and grind the edges off, which when you do that, you're damaging the corrosion resistance, or you could modify this. You know, obviously you can always modify things, but the point is out of the box, these don't work together. And given this is 18 to 22 gauge wire that this is designed for, which is incredibly low amperage. This is a 20 amp block, which means, you know, at 12 volts, you know, that's 200 some watts of power. What are the chances that on 22 gauge wire, I'm going to need to run more than 20 amps? I mean, I can't, that seems very dangerous. That's not big enough wire to safely run 20 amps. So why is this not fitting on here? Either this manufacturer is kind of being a jerk by making their block too small, or this manufacturer is kind of being a jerk by making the ring terminal too big. And if I take this screw out, you can see that the hole in the middle here is also too big. It could be a couple sizes smaller, and the screw would still fit through fine. Now, this is the kind of thing that you don't expect to be a problem. You're upside down in a locker, you're crawling around, you've already attached this to the, you know, to whatever, and you've crimped these onto the end of your wires, and you're just going to wire everything up, and it doesn't fit. And you're kind of stuck there going, what do I do now? I spent all this time getting everything connected, and it doesn't fit. So it's not, again, you can modify things, you can change this out for a bigger one. I mean, bigger, if it's oversized, it's always fine. So you can always oversize things, and it won't be a problem. But the point is these are the kind of problems and the kind of, you know, inconsistencies and issues that when you're trying to get something done, turn an hour job into an all-day job. Because you end up going, oh, I'll just go down and, you know, I got all these crimped last night while I was watching a movie, so I'll just go down and in the morning I'll just wire them up, you know, which is basically what I did this morning. And now I can't just wire them up. I've got to go to the store to replace this with a bigger one because I don't have another one, you know, in my kit. Or I've got to cut the ends off and crimp with different ones, except I can't even do that because I don't have ring terminals that have a smaller hole in this. So now I have to hunt around on the internet for someone that will actually tell me. And this is a funny thing. This particular brand, on the package, they tell you that it's for 20 to 18 gauge. I don't see, and if I'm seeing it, if it's on here and I'm missing it, nowhere does the description tell me what size bolt this, what size screw / bolt this is for. And this is, in my experience, very common with these ones where they just like, well, that's the regular size. Well, what is the regular size? Again, you buy something like this, which is an oddball thing, which is, you know, a small wire to a very big bolt, and they mark it on the package, although the original packaging for this is missing. But the regular size, if you don't know, and here's the thing, if this is the regular size and this is the regular size, why don't they match up? Who's running more than 20 amps through 22 gauge wires? If you're doing DIY wiring on a boat for the first time, these are the kind of things that are going to interrupt your ability to get stuff done and be frustrating. So by me telling you about them, I'm hoping that, you know, you can go, well, let's check to make sure these actually will fit before I connect everything up. And then you can spend hours on the internet trying to find a vendor that sells these with the right size hole, or even tells you what size the ring is. Good luck.